Hey everyone, this is Michael again. Welcome to my review of last night's Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. And last night's Hell in a Cell took place at the AT&T Center in San Antonio, Texas. And I gotta say, last night's Hell in a Cell, this year's Hell in a Cell, I gotta say it was a surprisingly good show. I really enjoyed Hell in a Cell last night. I mean, it did have its flaws, yes. But all in all, it was a surprisingly good show. So let's get started with the review. I'll start with the match that was on the pre-show, and it was the New Day versus Rusev Day. You know, Rusev and Aiden English for the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. Didn't get to see this match, but the New Day ended up getting the win. They still retained the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. So, I mean, we all knew that the New Day was gonna retain the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. So, but didn't get to see the match. So that was the only match that was on the pre-show. And now we're going to start with the regular matches that were on the card. And the pay-per-view kicked off with a Hell in a Cell match. It was Jeff Hardy versus Randy Orton. And this was, in my opinion, the first best match of the night. This was a good Hell in a Cell match. There was a lot of blood in this match. Everything was used in this match. You had ladders, you had belts, a belt that was being used, and you had a screwdriver used also. But Jeff Hardy and Randy Orton, they were both really good in this match. The wrestling here and the wrestling all through the night was very enjoyable. And this match was really awesome. You had the highlights of this match. The highlight of this match was there's actually two highlights. The first one was Randy Orton taking going into a toolbox that was under the ring. He ended up getting a screwdriver, and you know how Randy Orton was obsessed with Jeff Hardy's earlobe, and he ended up, pulling on Jeff Hardy's earlobe, and he ended up putting the screwdriver through Jeff Hardy's earlobe, and this was hard to watch. I couldn't believe, that Randy Orton, did this, and I have never seen anything like that. From watching wrestling all these years. So I never even seen that before. But it was just, hard to watch. It made you look away from what was going on. Randy Orton was bleeding. Also, he was bleeding from the back because Jeff Hardy used his belt, and you had Randy Orton bleeding from the thigh. You saw like a piece of his skin, was hanging, which was really crazy to see. You had Jeff Hardy end up taking a front suplex into the ladder. It was just back and forth between Jeff Hardy and Randy Orton. And then by the end of the match, you had Jeff Hardy placing a table. You had a tall ladder, little ladder, and what it looked like. What Jeff Hardy was going to do, it looked like he was going to leap from, get on top of the small ladder and then leap over the big ladder and do like that sort of like leap, that leg drop to that he always did. But he couldn't do that, so he ended up climbing he ended up climbing up the big ladder, and he ended up hanging from the top of the cell, and he had Randy Orton on the table, and Jeff Hardy was just swinging from the top of the cell, like he was hanging on to like monkey bars. And so Randy Orton rolled away. He rolled off the table. Jeff Hardy ended up dive splashing into the table, missing Orton because he moved out of the way. And if Jeff Hardy would have hit this, he would have won the match. But he took too long, and that's when Randy Orton moved out of the way, and then just Jeff Hardy ended up just getting put through the table, going through the table. And it looked like Jeff Hardy was out cold, like he wasn't even moving. And so the referee was warring off Orton, and the ref was asking for help, for the EMTs to come out and help Jeff. But Randy Orton's like, no, this match ain't gonna go this way. We end up seeing the cell lift a little bit for the EMTs to come, but Randy Orton was saying, no, let's end this match. Do your job and let's finish the match. And so that's when Randy Orton made the pinfall. And so Randy Orton ends up winning the match. He was able to make the cover. Randy Orton then wins the match. And then we just saw, the medics rush down with the stretcher. They end up tending to Jeff Hardy. They put a neck brace around Jeff Hardy. So, but all in all, this was a crazy Hell in a Cell match. This was a good Hell in a Cell match. Bloody. Everything was used in this Hell in a Cell. It was a surprisingly good match. It was, my opinion, the first best match of the night. Very enjoyable Hell in a Cell match. So really liked it. Then after that, we had AJ Styles was being interviewed, and he ends up saying, if Samoa Joe, wants to talk about his family, he can't wait for the match to start so he could end, Joe talking and fighting to the start. Styles ends up saying, he's walking in as champion. He's gonna rip Joe's heart out of his chest, and he's gonna be walking out of Hell in a Cell still as the WWE champion. So it was a little decent interview with AJ Styles. Then we had the SmackDown Women's Championship match, Becky Lynch versus Charlotte. And, from what I'm seeing, with Becky Lynch, we all thought that she was a heel. To me, now, after seeing Becky, I think she's just, an anti-hero, like a baby face, anti-hero heel. Just like how Stone Cold was back in the day. Everybody's calling Becky Lynch, Stone Cold Becky Lynch. So, but this match, it was another good match. It was a very entertaining match from Becky and Charlotte. It was back and forth between them. At the end of the match, you had, Charlotte was going for the spear. Becky ended up countering it into a pin, and Becky Lynch wins the match, and Becky Lynch is the SmackDown Women's Champion, a two-time SmackDown Women's Champion, and I'm very happy for that. We all wanted Becky to win the title again. Because it's been a while. It's been 2 years since Becky held the SmackDown Women's Championship, but I'm pretty concerned that now that she won, now that Becky won last night, hopefully WWE doesn't, do the stupid, hot potato with the title, just like how they did it between Sasha and Charlotte when Charlotte was on Raw. Hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully WWE doesn't do this again. With playing hot potato now with the SmackDown Women's Championship, and put the title back on Charlotte. Hopefully this doesn't happen. Keep the title on Becky for a while. Let her have a good reign as a two-time SmackDown Women's Champion. Please let that happen. I don't want to see Becky lose that quickly. And so after the match, Becky ended up putting the title on her shoulder. Charlotte ends up approaching her. Charlotte offers a hand to Becky, but Becky ended up raising the title high, and she ends up telling Charlotte that she's not taking this moment, that Charlotte is not going to be taking this moment from her again. So yeah, that was very cool. That was kind of cool. So yeah, so all in all, Becky versus Charlotte for the SmackDown Women's Championship. It was a really good match. It was very enjoyable, and I'm happy for Becky. She deserved this. So and then we got the New Day backstage. They were celebrating their victory, and we saw Big E and Xavier back there, and Kofi was nowhere to be found. And so comes Kramer Kingsman. Kofi plays, has been playing, and he ends up interviewing them about what's next for the New Day. And Big E says they're going down, to the Super Showdown in 3 weeks, which is going to be in Australia, to wrestle Cesaro and Sheamus, the Bar. And he says tonight they end up celebrating. And so Big E gets a Gatorade cooler that's full of pancakes and dumps it all over, Xavier. So it was funny. It was pretty funny interview, backstage segment with the New Day. So then we had Dolph Ziggler and Drew McIntyre, the Dogs of War, as what they're calling them now, versus Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins. This was for the Raw Tag Team Championships. This was a good tag team match. This was a very enjoyable match. Really loved this match from start to finish. It was just very entertaining. This is tag team wrestling at its best, in my opinion, from this match. This, in my opinion, was the second best match of the night. Both of these teams, they were really awesome in this match. And at the end of the match, you had Drew McIntyre end up pinning the Claymore on Seth Rollins to score the win, and Dolph Ziggler and Drew McIntyre still retain the Raw Tag Team Championships. And like I said, it was an enjoyable match. It was the second best match of the night. Really loved this match. It was tag team wrestling at its best. Very enjoyable match. So then we had after that match we had Mick Foley coming up to Braun Strowman. He ends up telling Strowman that he better respect his authority tonight in the match, and Braun ends up telling Foley that if he does his job and counts to 3, he'll do his. And he ends up also telling Foley that he doesn't want a monster problem. So it was just that little segment with Mick Foley and Braun Strowman backstage. Then we had AJ Styles versus Samoa Joe for the WWE Championship. This was a good match. It had a slow start at the beginning, in my opinion, but it's picked up really well as the match picked up really well as it went on. Really am enjoying this feud with Styles and Joe. And at the end of the match, you had Joe hooking in the Coquina Clutch to Styles. Styles actually went for the phenomenal forearm, but Joe ended up countering it and put Styles into the Coquina Clutch. And we saw AJ, fall back. He ended up reversing the Coquina Clutch into a pin, and so AJ Styles retains the WWE Championship, which brought a surprise to Joe, because Joe thought he would win the title, and then when it was announced that it was still the WWE champion, AJ Styles, you just saw a surprised look on Joe, which was, I couldn't help but laugh, at Joe's facial, face expression when Styles was announced, to still retain the title. And Joe was irate. He was throwing, tantrums outside of the ring. And when Joe returned to the ring, he went to attack Styles, but Styles ended up laying out Joe with a super kick. And so that's what happened after the match. And we saw from a different camera angle, because they showed another camera angle, and we saw Styles apparently, while he was still in the Coquina Clutch, he ended up tapping. Styles ended up tapping on Joe's ribs, but the referee didn't see it, so the ref just made the 1, 2, 3, called it, and Styles retained the WWE Championship. So the ref didn't even see that. The referee didn't see Styles tapping. So AJ Styles still retains the WWE Championship. But all in all, it was a good match. It was an enjoyable match. Started off slow, but picked up as the match went on. So I'm really liking this feud between Styles and Joe. Then after that match, we saw The Miz and Maryse were being interviewed backstage. Miz says, they're going to turn Daniel Bryan and Brie Bella's stunt into a nightmare. And Maryse ends up saying, Brie punched Miz knowing that, he wouldn't punch back. And she ends up saying, but she'll punch for him. And so they call Daniel Bryan and Brie Bella irrelevant losers. And so that was the interview with Miz and Maryse. So, and then we had the match: Brie Bella and Daniel Bryan versus the Miz and Maryse. And this was a decent match. Although I would say, this should have been, a rematch between Daniel Bryan and Miz just by themselves, and WWE had to put their wives into this, both of their wives into this. But it was just majority Daniel Bryan and the Miz going at it in this match. Maryse didn't want to get into this match. She ended up running away, running off, and just cowering behind Miz, letting Miz do everything, letting the Miz take out Daniel Bryan. But we saw Brie and Maryse go at it for a little bit, where we saw Miz and Maryse, they ended up wanting to quit the match, and so both of them ended up walking up the ramp and Brie and Daniel ended up making the save, and then by the end of the match, we saw Maryse end up rolling up Brie. She had her hand on Brie's tights to score the win, and so Maryse and The Miz end up winning the match. So, but I gotta say that reverse, what Maryse did by pulling, on Brie's tights, that reverse pinfall, that looked terrible, in my opinion. That looked like shit. So, yeah. So The Miz and Maryse end up winning the match. So then we had Alexa Bliss versus Ronda Rousey for the Raw Women's Championship. This was an awful match, in my opinion. This, in my opinion, was Ronda Rousey's worst match so far. Because you had Alexa Bliss came out with Mickie James and Alicia Fox, and what was Alicia Fox, wearing? It looked like she was like a conductor with that hat on. And I'm like, what the fuck was she wearing? And of course, you had Ronda come out with Natalya. And this match should have ended, quickly. This should have been a quick match, but it went on. You had Ronda end up winning the match. She ended up blocking in the armbar to Alexa, and when Ronda got that armbar on Alexa just ended up tapping that quick. So Ronda ends up winning. She still retains the Raw Women's Championship. So, but the match should have been very short. Shouldn't have went on that long. So yeah, but it was a terrible match in my opinion. This was, like I said, Ronda Rousey's worst match so far. So then we saw a recap of Styles and Joe from earlier in the night. Samoa Joe was yelling at the referee, and demanding demanded Paige to explain how she still has a job, how he still has a job, how the ref still has the job. And so Paige ends up telling Joe that he needs to calm down and stop interrupting her. And she ends up saying that the referee's decision was final. So Paige ends up telling Joe that he'll get his rematch at the Super Showdown in Australia in 3 weeks against Styles. And Joe says, that's ridiculous, and that he should be champion right now. He should be the WWE champion right now. And that's pretty much what it was. This was a build up for Styles and Joe to go at it to have their rematch at the Super Showdown in Australia in 3 weeks. So we're getting that at the Super Showdown. Then it was the main event. Braun Strowman versus Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship. Hell in a Cell match. This was, a good match going forward. We had, everything in this match. We had, tables. We had Roman Reigns hitting, the kendo stick to Braun Strowman, and that kendo stick broke quickly by Roman just hitting Strowman hard with it. And so, at that, Strowman ended up, taking the kendo stick and breaking it over, his knee. We had, a chair being, used also. And, of course, Mick Foley was a special guest referee of this match. And Mick Foley, he ended up botching, some of the counts here. Like, there was at one point towards later on in the match where Strowman ended up hitting the running power slam to Roman. And, Mick Foley was making the count. He ended up counting 1, 2, and then, it looked like 3. It, was a 3. And, Strowman, Roman just kicked out of it. So, from right there, Braun Strowman should have won the match because Mick Foley counted 1, 2, 3, and Braun Strowman should have won the match right then and there. But eventually that didn't end up happening. And so we had Dolph Ziggler and Drew McIntyre coming out, and then Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose ended up coming out. Both of those guys, those guys ended up, fighting. They ended up climbing up to the top of the cell. They went up there. We had Dolph Ziggler and Seth Rollins, climbing down the cell. They were hanging on to it, outside. We saw Dolph and Seth go through the announce tables, which was really cool. And then what it looked like, Strowman and Roman were like sleeping in the ring while all this was happening between Dolph, Drew, and Seth and Dean. They weren't even moving. So, and there was tables being used, between Strowman and Roman. And then, both men end up falling to the floor, and they both crash through the announce tables. Seth and Dolph. And Brock Lesnar, which I did not. This was unexpected. Brock Lesnar ended up showing up to Hell in a Cell. He was with Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman gets in one of the referee's face, and Brock ends up kicking down the Hell in a Cell door. Ends up kicking it with one kick, and out came Mick Foley. Paul Heyman ends up pepper spraying Foley, and Brock leans the cage door in the ring, and so we see a chunk of broken table there. That's what Brock used to hit Strowman and Roman with it, and then he just threw a piece of that broken table out of the ring. And so then we saw Brock ends up F5ing Strowman, and Lesnar ends up hitting another F5. He hits it on Roman, but he ends up F5ing Roman onto Strowman. And so that pretty much ended the match, because another referee ended up coming in, ends up calling the match, and so the match ended in a no contest. And this was all by WWE wanting to protect Roman. They do it for Roman. It's the fucking Roman agenda. WWE going out to protect Roman and not make him want to lose the Universal Championship. They do it for Roman, like I said. And this ending was shitty. This was one of the worst endings to a pay-per-view I have ever seen. This literally was a shitty ending to a pay-per-view. What more can I say about it? It was shit ending. The match was good up until that shitty ending. So yeah. So anyways, that's it for my review of this year's Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. Thank you all for watching. Let me know what you all thought about this pay-per-view. in the comments down below. Did you enjoy it? Did you hate it? Did you think it was okay? Decent? Let me know what you all thought of the show in the comments below. So, yes, anyways, thank you all for watching. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you all later tonight for my Raw review, which probably is going to be another shitty Raw tonight. We'll just have to wait and see. So, yeah, so I'll see you all tonight with my Raw review.